tell them check out the blog, bro. YouTube channel called MKO. It's pugilism, boxing algorithm. M stand for Marvin and Kevin's initials KO. Yeah. Yes, what's good, ladies and gents? Welcome to the MKO Pugilism Boxing channel. We're talking all things boxing as per usual. Remember to like, remember to subscribe to this channel. Of course, more content is on its way to you shortly. And yeah, right about now, I'm just going to go through the 3 undercard fights that were part of the conclusion of Matchroom's fight camp. Just ended Saturday just gone. So yeah, it was overall it wasn't the best of best cards, but it was definitely a decent card that did have a dramatic ending with Babic KOing Dillian the body snatcher White with a dramatic left hand. So yeah, I'll just run you through some of the undercard 3 fights that happened prior to the Katie Taylor fight, which has already been reviewed. So we had Jack Cullen versus Zach Chelli. This was a fight where there was a lot of opportunity on the line. Eddie Hearn had sort of promised big things for the winner, and there was a lot of incentive to do well in this fight. A lot on the line there, but it did end in a draw, and it was a sort of close-ish fight. Both guys, you know, both tall, both rangy, and I think Zach Chelli sort of began to do better in the fight as the second half began, you know, sort of round 6 onwards, and you know, he'd done a lot of the better work. I think the last 3 rounds were quite close. You could maybe give Chelli the edge in it, but it was really close to the last sort of 3 rounds, you know, back and forth between the guys. Chelli doing a lot of good work, but you know, also getting caught at times. So they were, you know, it's one of those fights where there was a lot of rounds that were close. There was a lot of rounds where it was hard to split these guys. But they both sort of boxed well. They both expended a lot of energy. Zach Chelli picked up an eye injury. I think that was quite early in the fight. So his eye was very puffy. You know, he done well to come through. And, you know, it's one of those fights where you have to take your hat off to both men and, you know, give both men their respect, really. It's a draw on the record. Of course, a win would have been better, would have propelled them further. But I think the thing with a draw is that it's not going to really hurt the stock of either fighter, I don't think. I think both guys can now move on from this, and hopefully they get some good opportunities from Eddie Hearn. Both are young, you know. Chelli, I think, is only about 23 or something like that. So I think he's got time, maybe go on to a British title or something like that, try and work his way up. And you know, the same for Jack Cullen, you know, relatively sort of youngish guys, and yeah, they can still have a future in the sport. They can still go on to do something. How far they go, I don't know, but yeah, decent scrap, decent opener, you know, it's a back and forth action, so definitely a good scrap to watch. And we also had, of course, Luther Clay defending his title against Chris Kongo. Chris Kongo, a guy who has been, you know, a touted guy, was on the GB squad as an amateur. You know, decent fighter, decent international amateur. His career had, you know, had some problems where he was struggling to get opponents, struggling to sort of get guys to fight. I think there are a lot of guys in his career, you know, that have pulled out of fights with him. So his career hasn't had the sort of progression that is needed to have. It hasn't had the momentum that is needed to have up until this point. And a lot of it is, you know, partially not even his fault, because if, you know, guys are pulling out, you can't get the opponents, things of that nature. You know, it's kind of out of your control as a boxer. You know, you just want to fight, you know. So you got him, and you know, he was coming in there with the pedigree, boxing skills. And of course, Luther Clay, a kid from South Africa who was you know, came over to England as a kid, resides in Bracknell, Reading area, that sort of area. And again, a kid that didn't have great amateur pedigree, but he's a kid that, you know, is good. He's been developing and he's been learning on a job. One thing you saw for sure in this fight was that, you know, weigh-in day, both guys, I think they only weighed in about 10 stone 5 for this welterweight fight. You could see there was a significant size difference. You could see that clearly. Congo was significantly sort of bigger and taller. You know, he basically pretty much dwarfed Luther Clay, and he boxed very well in this fight. You know, he used his attributes of the size, the strength. He kept the fight, you know, for the most part, sort of at longish range. He was able to keep Clay on the end of his jab and right hand, and you know, he boxed to good instructions by his trainer, you know, Jim McDonald and that, and he did well. You know, the whole fight was you know, pretty much, it wasn't one-sided, but I'd say that for the most part, Congo was having his way. He was having his way for the majority of this fight. And you know, Clay was always sort of in the fight, but I felt like he was always sort of playing catch up, because he was always trying to bob and weave and trying to get in range. He did have his successes. Luther Clay did have some successes. He was able to get inside for certain times, but for the most part, Congo was the one that was not completely dominating, but he was a guy that was on top. He was a guy that was sort of in charge in this fight and having the best of the action in this one. So yeah, the fight ended with a late KO by Chris Congo. Brilliantly timed shot where he landed, and yeah, he just sort of put Luther Clay away. He picks up the strap now by a very good KO, and I think it's one of those where this is definitely what Chris Congo needed. Luther Clay, you know, he's lost here, but I think he can come back, and I think he can improve. He can get better still. He's not an old fighter. He's not no old man or anything, and I think this is a fight where, you know, he can take it as a learning experience. He was always in the fight until that one punch that just, you know, separated him from his senses. And I think, you know, Clay, he can come again. There's no reason why not. And as far as Congo goes, you know, hopefully he can get in on the domestic mix and you know, sort of domestic to European level, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. But yeah, congratulations to Congo on that victory. It was a good victory, and it was a good sort of rubber stamp that he put on the fight by taking out Luther Clay. And of course, one of the most entertaining, if not the most entertaining fight on the card was Alan the Savage Babbage, you know, and he proved against Shaundell Winters that he is indeed a savage. And Babbage just walked in the ring, and prior to this in a press conference, he was saying he's gonna knock Winters the F out, and Winters really stayed calm and composed during the build-up, didn't bite, just basically held himself together, didn't get angry, just stayed calm, collective, as you should in the media days. Babbage was physically, you know, visibly frustrated, visibly annoyed by certain things Winters was saying. And when it came into the fight, there was no conventional boxing guard or hands up by Babbage. Babbage just literally, I think he just literally had his hands by his side for the whole fight, and he spent the whole fight just winging in hooks, wide hooks, you know, left hooks, right hooks, uppercuts, and that's all he done in his fight. Alan the Savage Babbage, he just literally, from the word go, from the first bell, just sort of steamed into Winters trying to play defense, but I think certainly the weight would have worked against Winters, because from what I recall, Winters was under, I think he was under 14 stone in a weigh-in, so, you know, Winters was going in there really as a cruiserweight, you know, stroke light heavyweight, you know, so Winters was definitely lighter on the scales during weigh-in day. And he literally just in this fight got battered by Babbage, because Babbage was just, you know, from the word go, as I said, just dropped his hands and just waded in with left hooks, right hooks. He was just basically punching Winters all over the ring, you know, just battering him shot after shot after shot. I don't even think he threw a jab or anything of that nature, like a punch to set up anything. You know, Babbage was just out of just completely ruthless in this fight. You know, he wouldn't let Winters off the hook, just kept wailing him with punch after punch after punch after punch, and they were all hard punches. No, he didn't throw no pity-pat jabs or anything of that nature. You know, Babbage just completely came in there, let his hands go, and just wouldn't let up. And it only lasted 2 rounds. You know, first round battered Winters all over the place. Second round was the last round, just again wailing away with the hooks. And it was just simply a matter of Babbage was just too hot to handle in this fight. You know, the punches were just coming from these angles. Winters was just too small to compete with a guy like Babbage, and Babbage was just too much of a savage. It was just too ruthless, hit too hard, too big, too strong, and yeah, he just overawed and overwhelmed Shaundell Winters. And it was an interesting display by Babbage. I think it's one that, okay, you know, you can box like that against a guy like Winters, because he's a smaller heavyweight. He's a guy that you know, is really more of a cruiserweight in terms of how heavy he was and how heavy he is on fights. And I think Babbage is a guy that could be dangerous at heavyweight, but if he did the same thing he did against you know, a proper heavyweight, you know, 16, 17 stone guys, I think he'll get found out. I think if he did what he did there against the 16 stone, 17 stone heavyweight, who can box, who does have a jab, and who does have size and does have strength, I think he would have got found out that night. But obviously, you know, he's don't get me wrong, he's still technically pretty good, but I believe he would have got found out if he took that many risks, and if he just showed reckless abandon like he did against Winters. If Winters had been a you know, modern day big heavyweight, I think he would have got clocked with something, and unless his chin is made of iron, he could have been in trouble. But anyway, hats off to him. He did do well. He just basically beat what was in front of him. Didn't show much respect to Winters in that fight, and one thing you got to respect him for is he did exactly what he said he was going to do, which was, I'm going to knock you out, I'm going to destroy you, blah blah blah. And that's exactly what he did. So in that respect, you got to respect it, you got to appreciate it for what it is. And yeah, so congratulations to Babbage, congratulations to Congo and Chelli and Cullen. You know, respect to those guys too. You know, all the best to those guys on the undercard. And that's my thoughts for now. Until next time, this is MKO Pugilism, over and out.